What is going on, everybody? It's KB. Before the episode starts, make sure you go check out StreamerSZN's brand new theme music. That's right. We have full-time, brand new theme music thanks to the newest homie and newest member of the music side of Underground Sports Philadelphia homies. That is Mobley. Stay Volk. His new single is out now. It is linked in the description on YouTube, and you'll be hearing it on audio until we can figure out if we can play it on video on StreamerSZN episodes from here on out. That's our new theme music. Stay Volk. Go download it now wherever you get your music, and go check out the music video on YouTube. But now, let's get into the episode of StreamerSZN.
Philadelphia, baby, you're gonna love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
I am ready to be born again. What is going on, fellow streamers? Welcome into another edition of StreamerSZN, the exclusive streaming platform TV and movie podcast on the Underground Sports Philadelphia Podcast Network. Kicking off the show this week, it's KB and Harrison. Christian will be joining us later in the program. Not all together on this one, but hopefully more of that in the future, because last week was an absolute doozy of a time.
So fun.
Harrison and I on this episode are going to dive into the inner workings of Daredevil. We are the hardcore Daredevil fans on this show. So we're going to get into the Easter eggs. We're going to get into the breakdown. We're going to get into the meaning behind this episode. And then after this, Christian will be joining me, and we'll dive into the cinematic aspect, the TV aspect of the show. And then your traditional show rundown will proceed with myself and Christian. But before we get into everything, make sure you guys are following us on the socials at StreamerSZN and StreamerSZN Pod on TikTok. Subscribe to the pod on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts in audio form. Leave us a 5-star review. It goes a long way for helping this show continue to grow, along with every other show on our network. And subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Underground Sports Philadelphia. That is where you get full video episodes of this show every week, full video episodes of every show on our network, clips, shorts, live streams, original video content. It's all on our YouTube channel. And Harrison, I think without any further ado, let's get into Daredevil Born Again, Season 1, Episode 3, titled The Hollow of His Hand. And as we always traditionally do, we give our just thoughts, our takes, our just general oversight and overviews of the episode before we get into the breakdown. Harrison, what did you make of Episode 3 of Daredevil Born Again?
This week really leaned into the legal aspects of Daredevil's life. There wasn't much in the way of action per se, but that does not mean by any stretch of the imagination that the episode was boring. The twists, the turns, the stress I felt during this episode, all culminating in one final just burst of action. It was phenomenal. It was Daredevil at his finest without being in the cowl.
This was everything I was hoping for.
Yes.
When this show was announced.
Yes.
This was, again, very Season 2 Frank Castle trial.
Yes.
It was the dark aspects of Hell's Kitchen, of New York City. It was multiple storylines intertwining into one. It was the inner workings and inner demons that Matt Murdock is battling as he continues to suppress the Daredevil identity. It was corrupt cops, and I just want to give a tip of the cap and the kudos to Kevin Feige, to Benson and Moorhead, to the entire crew and showrunners from the previous run to the new ones that overtook when they redid the show, to have the balls, quite frankly, to tell a story that involves shit that we see in real life from cops and from corrupt cops. It takes a lot of guts, and I saw a very funny tweet that said Daredevil Born Again is going to have cops ripping their Punisher stickers off of their 2015 Dodge Chargers real quick.
Good.
I was blown away by this episode. This episode, like, quite literally, I got emotional watching this episode.
And it's all
Just so
thanks to
brilliant.
our De Los Reyes. May he rest in peace. He stole the show.
So
He stole
brilliant. Man, they are batting 1,000 so
Yeah.
far with this show.
If it was possible, they'd be batting 2,000.
They might even be batting 3,000, which is how much I love this show.
Yeah.
Let's get into it though. And hello, fellow streamers. This is your weekly spoiler warning from your mayor, Wilson Fisk. Vigilantes have no place in society. And we're going to get into all of that. So now, you don't want me to send my corrupt cops after you. Pause this episode. Go watch episode 3 of Daredevil Born Again. And meet me back here as I continue to punch my desk and get bruises and cuts on my hand that we have no idea where it came from.
At least not yet. And vigilantes have no place in modern society, but neither do spoilers without context. So if you don't want to be spoiled, step away for the time being and then rejoin us right here on StreamerSZN.
So let's get into it. Breakdown of the plot. Matt Murdock visits Hector Ayala at his cell, and as the two talk about Ayala's memories of Puerto Rico, Murdock promises that Ayala will soon be free and reunited with his family. This was really cool. As somebody who has a huge contingent of my friends and people that I consider family that are of Puerto Rican background, like, I'm around them a ton, and like their families have become like extensions of my family, and it's really beautiful the way they conveyed Hector's culture and the connection that he has to Puerto Rico from the beginning of this episode to the end of this episode, which was just so beautiful. And I did see a funny joke. I think New Rockstars brought it up, and it was like Hector talking about like the beaches of Puerto Rico, and Matt Murdock is just like, "I'm gonna get you back to those beaches, Hector," and Hector just be like, "No, I'm okay here in New York. Like I'll visit, but like I'm okay living here." It's like, "No, I'm gonna get you back to those beaches no matter what I do."
Yeah. And just the conversation they had about the beaches of Puerto Rico, and specifically the coquis, the tiny frogs that sing their song on Puerto Rico, just really helped flesh out the character of Hector Ayala and who he is and what his belief and his personal moral systems is. And it was just one of those conversations that felt ripped straight out of not only the comic books, but the original Daredevil run. And man, I just had to pause the episode after that and really just reflect on what I had just seen and heard. It was so good.
So then we get the tension within the 5 families continuing to rise, leading to a full gang war and culminating at the double murder at Red Hook Pier. Bum, bum, bum.
And remember, Vanessa said that pier was off limits in the first episode.
Can I just say the way that they are not holding back whatsoever just full-fledged murder is fucking insane.
Capital M murder. This is not like, oh, you see John Walker kill this guy, but the final blows are done off screen, and you can just see the faintest glimpse of blood. No, this guy this dude in the truck had a gun pulled on him and
To the
shot in the
face.
to the face. Foggy, the blood spray from his death. Just like, ugh.
It's
Ugh.
crazy.
It's the most violent the MCU has ever been. Ever.
And in a weird way, I'm fucking loving it.
Oh, I am here for it. Look,
Yeah.
I'm not watching a superhero show to get away from the violence. No, violence is inherently a part of superhero shows. You don't want to like everybody loves Naruto, and Naruto is a great series, but the talk no jutsu is annoying as hell. I don't want to see my opponent, my protagonist, sit down and have a conversation with his enemy, only for them not to come to blows later. Like
It's like watching an episode of Pokemon, and all they do is just travel through the towns, and there's no gym battle.
exactly. And the beautiful thing about Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk is, yes, they will sit down and have those conversations, but you know it's leading to violence later down the line. This is
100%.
not Matt trying to get Wilson to turn a new leaf. This is Matt saying, listen, I respect that you want to change your life, but if you step one toe out of line, I will be there and I will beat your ass to a bloody pulp. And that is what I want out of this show.
Speaking of Wilson Fisk, he and Vanessa talk about business at breakfast.
Oof.
Somebody had one of the funniest posts. They zoomed in on his omelet and said, "Oh my god, they recast the omelet."
Honestly, something I might want to like keep an eye on. Keep an eye on his breakfast throughout the course of the series. Because I feel like he's steadily going to be adding more to his breakfast as time goes on.
He
Like,
gonna get bulky again.
He's going to get bulky.
It's
not
bulking
only,
season in Hell's Kitchen.
he might go from a solely egg white omelet made from like 1 or 2 eggs to a full scrambled breakfast with like all the fixins and not,
He certainly had a different omelet this go around. Somebody literally tweeted said, "Oh my god, they recast the omelet." I pissed myself.
Maybe he'll have more than one string of asparagus with his breakfast too.
I pissed myself laughing when I saw that tweet. So kudos to whoever posted that. I apologize for not remembering, but Wilson and Vanessa talk about business at breakfast, and while Fisk understands that his wife does not want to sit idly by, he reaches for higher goals. Sheila Rivera informs Fisk about the incident at the port. Mm-hmm. And Vanessa says that the five families keep going at each other because neither of them is present to maintain the order. Fisk is unbothered and would rather have them all kill each other, but Vanessa warns him that whoever is left standing will come after Fisk himself. Before the trial, Matt Murdock gets confronted by Powell, who threatens to speak out about their past confrontation and Murdock interfering with the investigation. I just do have to say, too, with D'Onofrio like washing his hand and the transition to it being Matt's hand was so cool.
Oh, so clean. And you notice both of them have bloody, bruised, scraped up knuckles. And we know
why Matt did.
But we still have yet to know why Mr. Fisk, Mayor Fisk, has his knuckles all.
Who the hell that boy punching?
Honestly, I could see him just beating the hell out of his closet or his desk after every single conversation with Vanessa. Because you can tell he is still madly in love with that woman.
That's the best case scenario, in my opinion.
Yes. He is still madly in love with that woman, but it is clear she is not with him.
Yes. So in response, Matt points out that Powell was engaged in witness tampering, a more serious offense, so Powell is forced to back down. Benjamin Hochberg summons Powell to the stand, and he testifies about Ayala attacking him and Kel Shanahan unprovoked, resulting in the latter's death. What a delivery and what a quote from Matt Murdock in the courtroom. The cure for a black eye is fast hands. What a fucking zinger from Matty Murdock.
And I love how Hochberg was just like, "Hey, yo, wait. The leading, Your Honor, objection." Um, and it was so good.
It was
And
amazing.
that scumbag Powell, just
Piece of shit.
bold bold-faced lying on
Under
the
oath.
under oath, perjured himself, but of course he's gonna get away with it.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
just straight up committing perjury.
Murdoch cross-examines him, inquiring about Nikki Torres being absent from Powell's testimony. While hearing the officers at court talking about not letting Torres to testify, Matt's enhances again the way they're doing it so well done. You see that
Amazing.
cop lean in. He's got the Punisher tattoo on his neck because he's a
Another cop
scumbag.
tattoo. That's
Um,
2.
that's two of them things, and now you got the cops who are corrupting the case.
Yeah.
So as Murdoch openly accuses Powell, Cherry, and Forrest Tam work on getting Torres to the courthouse so he could testify in Ayala's favor. Also very funny that they were giving that boy some cocaine.
Yeah. They're like, "We just need you to be not tweaking on the stage."
Here, kitty, 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 kitty. Oh,
Sorry.
so good.
Uh,
Powell Powell stops Cherry, but finds no one in his van. That whole sequence of events where they're bringing him in the van and then he gets stopped
phenomenal.
by that fucking scumbag. My heart was racing. I was
Yeah.
like, I was so nervous that he was gonna kill Cherry.
Yeah.
I was like,
And
do not do this to my man.
no, also, I already love Cherry. This
He's
dude
awesome.
is so badass. He's so cool. And
He's
just
awesome.
all the new supporting cast have been phenomenal in their own right. Kirsten McDuffie is a badass lawyer. Heather Glenn is really cool and a great love interest for Matt. Cherry, I could go on and on about how cool he is. And DA Hochberg is pretty badass in his own right too, even though he was fighting on the
Piece of
wrong side.
shit. Yeah. That whole sequence was just great. He opens up the back of the truck, nobody's there, and then we cut, boom, decoy, baby. He was in a different
Decoy.
car the whole time. So as they anticipated it, and Cherry acted as a ruse while Tam successfully brings Torres in. Murdoch takes a statement from Torres. However, he suddenly goes back on his word and claims that he was not present at the station that night. Scumbag, tweaker, piece of shit, Nikki Torres.
He was terrified for his life. And I mean, it's understandable if he had testified the truth, hadn't lied under oath, he probably would have been killed by someone in the NYPD later that night or the next day. And they got to him. They got to him before Matt Murdock could get him on the stand for him to tell the truth. And that is a real thing that happens in cases involving the police. They
Yep.
get to their the opponents, someone who could lock up one of their brothers on the thin blue line, and sometimes justice is not served.
And the fault that I put on Murdoch in this is that he put all his eggs in that one basket.
Yep. He should
And
have had
that's
more.
like you can't just have one, a one-way ticket there. You have to have more involved for yourself. And I was like, that's where he fucked up.
Yep.
But on top of that, we get just the inner workings of Matt's mind. Is like, okay, what do I have to do now? So Murdoch lashes out and he tries to pressure Torres into telling the truth about what happened, but Hochberg and Jerry Cooper force him to stand down, and Murdoch withdraws Torres as a witness. So then we get Buck Cashman meeting with the 5 families and talks about settling the conflicts between them, paying out restitution for the truck hijacking. Luca refuses to listen to Cashman and demands Fisk come out and talk to him personally, to which Cashman replies, he doesn't work for the mayor. He works for the man. What a fucking bar.
Now, I take this one of two ways. right? Sure, Wilson Fisk is the mayor, but Cashman could just be working for Fisk himself and not the office of the mayor.
Mhm.
Or it's a misleading statement. He's he's moonlighting as working for Fisk while he's actually working for the man, Vanessa.
I could see that. I also think from Buck's character in the comics, I think he's working for Val.
Ooh,
I
I
think
like
he's because
I
Val's
like
the director of the CIA.
yeah,
And granted, Harrison and I still have not seen, as far as I know, have not
I have
seen
not seen
Captain America yet. So we don't know the true inner workings of that film just yet. But the
I'm
last
waiting
time
for
you and I saw Val, she's the director of the CIA.
yeah. Yeah, I'm waiting for Captain America to be on Disney Plus, just because again, I've heard middle of the road things about that movie, and I'm like,
I'm
that
planning to
might
go see it hopefully this week.
yeah. I'm really excited. The next time I think I'm gonna see Val though is in Thunderbolts, which I am very excited for that movie.
Um, so Fisk and Vanessa attend a therapy session, and Fisk asks her to tell him about sending Cashman to settle business with the five families. Fisk says that Vanessa trying to maintain the peace is admirable, but chaos is also needed to build a stronger order. While Vanessa thinks that her husband is trying to punish her for her past affair. Bum,
Punish
bum.
her, punish her, punish her.
Affair?
Frank Castle. But we have fun.
Uh,
We have fun.
At the office, Murdoch talks with Kirsten McDuffie and Cherry about Torres' stunt, and Cherry suggests that the New York City Police Department must have pressured him somehow. McDuffie tries to think of anything they could use, but Murdoch remarks that without Torres on their side, their whole defense goes down the drain. He then says that their only remaining option is to get Ayala to take the stand and testify in his own words, hoping it would be enough to reach out to the jury. They're going to need a lot more bourbon. Ayala testifies to the court, claiming that he saw Torres being beaten up by Powell and Shanahan, and he only wanted to help, with Shanahan's death being an accident. Murdoch talks about Ayala being used to risking his life to help another. And before McDuffie realizes his angle and stops him, Matt Murdoch reveals to the court that Ayala is the White Tiger. What a fucking moment in
Yeah.
this show.
Now that might be something that gets Matt in serious legal trouble in
Yes.
regards to uh, his a profession or his ability to practice law. That is something that throws the court into disarray. It kind of disrespects the judge, and it definitely was not something Hector Ayala was expecting. He should have spoken with Hector before pulling a stunt like that. But that's almost to the level of behavior that could get you disbarred.
100%. So then Cooper adjourns the trial and summons both Murdoch and Hochberg to his chambers, chewing up the former for his stunt, as previously he got Cooper to keep Ayala's vigilantism off the record. Murdoch claims that his witness was tampered with, so he had no choice, and Ayala being White Tiger shows the pattern of his good character. Cooper had no choice but to continue the proceedings, and a frustrated Hochberg warns Murdoch that the DA's office will not forget what he did. Do we think, before we keep going here and while we're on this portion of the episode, do we think what gets Matt to put the suit back on is him getting disbarred?
Ooh, possibly.
Because that scene when he walks back into the empty courtroom and it parallels him walking into a church because the courtroom is his new church.
Yep, because he feels himself unworthy to step back inside an actual Catholic church.
Is him potentially being either suspended or, unable to practice law in New York, whatever it may be. Could that be a possibility in this show, or is that too much of an overstep for the character that is Matt Murdock, who is known as a really good lawyer, to remove that personality and that part of him from the show?
I say he receives a suspension for his behavior in the courtroom. I do not believe he gets disbarred because of things that happen later in the episode and how the case goes. But I definitely think he could be suspended for this action. And that could lead him to think, well, I can't do good on this side of the law for, I don't know, the next month, 2 months, 6 months. Let me get back into the vigilante side of things.
Right. So then Ayala tells Murdoch that he should have talked to him first, as White Tiger was not his secret to reveal. Murdoch understands that, but says that it was needed to keep Ayala out of prison, while saying that if he gets acquitted, he can no longer be a vigilante. Ayala replies that being White Tiger is something more to him than just wearing a suit, to which Murdoch assures him that he would not miss it as much, speaking from personal experience.
I really wanted Hector to put 2 and 2 together in that scene. I really did.
That would have been cool. That would have been cool.
But it is what it is. It's still a great episode.
Oh, 100%. And then with Ayala's secret out of the bag, Murdoch and McDuffie present testimonies from civilians and even other police officers who received help from White Tiger. Hawkbird tries to convince the jury that just because Ayala did some good, it does not absolve him of killing the police officer. Eventually, the jury reaches a verdict. But before we get to the verdict, some interesting notes from the police officers mentioned. Now, I will preface this. This last name, very common last name, especially in New York, that is very heavily Hispanic. So it's not necessarily a dialed in certified yes that this is about this person. But saw a lot of doofuses online not realizing that in the comics this person changes their last name to dissociate themselves from a certain family member of theirs. We got an Officer Morales name drop in this episode. Now, why is that important, everybody? Well, that's because Miles Morales' father, that's his name. That's Officer Morales. And you're probably like, well, that's his dad. His mom is the Hispanic one. Well, that's because Mr. Officer Jeff Morales changed his last name to Morales to dissociate himself from his brother, aka the Prowler, who we know exists in MCU continuity as the ever so famous, the ever so talented Donald Glover.
Yep. And it was, I seriously sat up. I did the whole Leonardo DiCaprio. I was like, that's Jeff. He's got to be talking about Jeff, because Jeff has always been one of those guys who has leaned towards the favor of the vigilantes. He rocks with Spider-Man, clearly. But that's something we've seen in the video games, in the Spider-Verse movies. He's always been one to work with the vigilantes rather than attack them. And it would be so in line for his character to provide testimony on behalf of the White Tiger instead of his corrupt coworkers, because he has always been one of the good cops.
Yep. It was very cool to hear that, to be honest. Yes. Now, we don't know if that was full-blown confirmed as the one and only. But it's gotta be a nice little subtle wink, wink, nudge, nudge at the very least. So that was very cool to see nonetheless. But on top of that, we get the jury reaching a verdict. How hard were you holding your breath throughout this whole thing? Because this show has sent us into so many crazy topsy-turvy moments. I didn't know what they were going to do, but I was holding my breath like I was watching a real goddamn court case.
They basically adapted this episode 1 for 1 with the trial of the century, Matt Murdock representing Hector Ayala in a very similar case, not the exact same, but very similar. In the comics, he was found guilty, and I was so terrified that they were going to do the same here. Until
The jury deems that Mr. Ayala was not guilty on all counts, to Ayala and Murdoch's joy, and Murdoch invites Heather Glenn to his place to celebrate and recalls how he and Foggy Nelson used to keep a whiskey bottle for the cases they won as a reminder that sometimes the system works, which if you remember back to episode 1, Foggy telling Miss McDuffie about the bottle that the bar that they were at, they keep that under the counter for special occasions. That's where they went to celebrate, baby.
Yep. The good old bottle of O'Melvinies for the good occasions.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So then watching the news of Ayala being found not guilty, this final scene was whoever wrote this from this point to the closing credits deserves an Emmy.
It was chef's kiss. So good.
Watching the news of Ayala being found not guilty, Wilson Fisk talks to Daniel Blake and orders to arrange him another meeting with BB Urich. Much to the dismay of Fisk's right-hand lady, not Vanessa, but
she was saying, we have reporters in the Times on hand. And I'm surprised she didn't go with the Daily Bugle, but the Times
I don't know if they can mention the Daily Bugle for legality rights with Sony and everything. But I agree. But I do find it fascinating how Fisk is tapping into the younger reporter because he knows that she'll get the social media aspect out there.
Yeah.
She'll get the clips that will go viral. She'll get the story that way. And also on top of, this, the BB news reports throughout this episode were chefskiss.gif.
Yes.
And impeccable to use the Latino aspect to connect to Hector and everything. And the one man on the street interview where the older gentleman was like, I don't think he's going to get a fair trial because he's Puerto Rican. I was like, that is so fucking relatable. There were so many people watching this show. I was like, job well done.
There was that, and then there was also the good versus evil, the evil versus evil, the good versus
good. Ugh.
It encapsulated everything that a normal person in the MCU would be feeling on a daily basis. You have these gods and these monsters and these titans walking amongst you, and you're just trying to live your life.
Mm-hmm.
You're just trying to go to your 9 to 5. You don't want to see your car being used in a battle between a superhero and a supervillain. It doesn't even have to be a superhero and a supervillain. It can be Spider-Man versus Iron Man in the streets of New York. That could happen. It could be Captain America versus Iron Man at an airport, which did happen.
It could be the tracksuit mafia getting shrunk down and eaten by an owl.
Which could happen.
It did happen.
Who knows?
Imagine do you remember in elementary school, the school project that you had to do in class in science when you had to dissect the owl pellet?
Yeah.
Imagine the class in the MCU that had to dissect that owl pellet, and you're just everyone in your class is assembling rat bones or something, and you're just putting together two tiny human skeletons, and it's like, teacher, why do my bones look like this?
Wait. No, wait. Why is there a purple tracksuit in here?
Oh, could you imagine? That would be scarring.
Oh, I think those kids would have to take a sabbatical from school for a month.
They'd be going to the Sanctum Sanctorum and be like, "Can you make us forget what just happened, Doctor Strange?"
Yes, Dr. Heather Glenn, we need to start some therapy with you, please.
In-class therapy.
So I understand you kids have gone through a lot recently. I put together a person.
The door just busts open. It's fucking Muse.
Oh God. Oh God.
Hand over the skeletons.
I gotta do some art.
He just paints the owl out of those skeleton bones.
Ooh.
Oh man. So Fisk gives BB Urick an interview, calling Ayala's acquittal a miscarriage of justice, despite Urick noting that it was a decision made by the judge and the jury. Fisk argues that he knows well that the justice system is flawed and the vigilantes are a threat that he takes seriously as the mayor. This being effectively a voiceover to
Perfect.
Hector putting on the white tiger suit again, going out in the street, because it is more to him than just being it's who he is. It's in his DNA. And this being a voiceover to it is just so peak television movie writing.
Yep. And it really does speak to, he's not Hector Ayala. He is the white tiger. He knows that he could jeopardize this marriage, put his life on the line every single night. But it's just this instinct within him that forces him to go and save people, to protect people. He's not doing this because he wants to. He's doing it because he physically needs to.
Now, I don't know if it was I believe it was his niece that was in the courtroom with his wife, the younger girl.
Yeah.
She's the one that I think it's either his niece or his daughter. I'm not 100% sure. I think it's his niece, though.
It's his niece. It's either I believe his sister Ava was in there and his niece Angela. And
the younger one, I think, is going to be the one we see take up the White Tiger mantle. Yeah. And I think what they're going to do in the MCU that kind of differs from the comics potentially is she is going to join the Young Avengers champions lineup, however they want to do it in the MCU. And she's going to, like, I could see a world where we get a post-credit scene and we obviously know Kamala Khan's father is going to be in this show, where we get the continuation of Kate Bishop and Kamala Khan together after the Marvels, and they go and recruit new White Tiger to the team.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, they're definitely White Tiger is, well, let's continue on with this before I can fully say what I wanted to say there.
So Ayala puts on his white tiger suit and gets out on the street to help the people. But then he gets ambushed by a gunman sent by Wilson Fisk with the Punisher's skull insignia on his vest and shoots Hector Ayala right in the head as he falls to the ground. And then we cut to the end credits with the Cokies singing their song, and just a beautiful full circle moment of this episode to where Hector is now intertwined with his homeland of Puerto Rico, of the Coquis that he viewed as something beautiful, which they are. And I genuinely was distraught.
Yes.
After that happened.
It was genuinely a beautiful episode. And then the ending was shocking. White Tiger is dead, killed by a man sporting the Punisher insignia. And so I'm assuming Angela, her name in the comics is Angela Del Toro, not Angela Ayala. I'm assuming that she will be the one to take up the mantle as White Tiger. Because it does pass through the family, the amulet. Now, I am interested to see how Punisher responds to this killing, because I think he will start going on a rampage, killing everybody who sports his logo to inflict their own brand of justice.
So from what we've seen in the trailers and where Bernthal pops up, and I think that's his first appearance back in the world of Marvel again. Yeah. He looks pretty like hermit-like and like disheveled. I don't know if he's paying attention to what's going on. It feels like he hung up the vigilante, he hung up his armor and everything even before Matt did. I'm also wondering if Bernthal's Punisher survived the blip. And I'm wondering if all of this, I'm wondering if Matt, when he finds out that Hector is dead, is a trigger point for him to put the suit back on.
I think it will be a trigger point for him to put the suit
For
back on.
him to then find out that it was somebody wearing the Punisher insignia, and he
then
thinks it's
Frank.
Bernthal. He thinks it's Frank, and he goes out looking for him.
Mhm.
And he's like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Like, I know nothing that's going on." And then Matt convinces him to put his armor back on and be like, "Hey, these people are, slandering your name," courtroom term.
Yeah.
And those two team up and go fucking fist for fist until they get to Wilson Fisk.
Oh, yeah, I need that. I need that. But there's so many directions they could go with it. And man, this show is already shaping up to be the best the MCU has ever put out. We're only 3 episodes deep. And there's always the fear that they could fumble it, but they're not going to fumble it.
It's amazing what happens when you get TV writers and you're not trying to make television episodes just 8 mini movies. Because up until Agatha, which was the first Marvel television banner that we've gotten, every other show was written like it was an 8-part movie.
Yeah. Instead of being a television series, this is peak television, peak cinema. And these writers understand these characters so well. And it helps that your 2 lead actors, Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, are their characters. That is Daredevil. That is Wilson Fisk. Charlie Cox is Matt Murdock. Vincent D'Onofrio is Wilson Fisk. They understand their characters like they are them themselves.
It also feels like, and I saw New Rockstars talking about this a lot, Vincent D'Onofrio apparently in the reconjuring of this show to get it to where it is now had a lot of say in things happening for the show to get where it is. The only other person Marvel's really given that type of power to is Robert Downey Jr.
Yes. So they are going to be trusting a lot of the street level action to Vincent D'Onofrio.
And it feels like Kingpin is setting up to be a long-standing street level, like, big bad for a long, long time.
Yes. I cannot wait. And he's such a good actor.
I want him on this show so goddamn bad. Like, he's so active on Twitter and responding to people, and he had something pop up this week where, like, people were freaking out that he called him a dumbass. And he was like, "You do realize that this was their username on the platform." I was like, I recognize that right away.
Yeah. And honestly, even if Vincent D'Onofrio called me a dumbass and it wasn't
I would shake his hand.
Oh, yes, sir. I am a dumbass. Thank you for understanding that. You know me better than I do. You're right. You're right.
This episode,
please call me a dumbass again.
Yes, Daddy.
Oh God. Oh God. Whoa. Wait.
So there's still in a great way. There's still so many fucking questions about what's to come, and we have 5 episodes to do. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. 6 episodes technically.
Yeah.
Next week is a 1 episode week, and then 5 and 6 are together.
Yep.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here, everybody. I'm gonna say episode 4 is typically the banger episode for a lot of these Disney Plus shows.
Yep.
We're not gonna get Frank Castle's appearance until the end, because 5 and 6 being together tells me we're gonna catch up with what the hell's been going on with Frank, and then get a full-fledged team up of what's to come.
Daredevil. Yeah, I feel like next week is going to be the episode that really kicks the plot into full gear. Like, we're gonna get inklings of what the plot will be throughout the episode, and then the final 15 minutes are going to be just pure starting of the plot. Then 5 and 6, we get the flashback to what Frank has been up to. 6, we get the team up, and then 7, 8, and 9 is the conclusion of the season 1 story, while building to the season 2 story, which is going to be Devil's Reign.
And I think this episode 4 upcoming is going to introduce the gaggle of goons that are these corrupt cops.
And also Muse. I feel like Muse will be introduced in this episode. And fully introduced, I should say. Because we've seen him, but like we haven't seen him yet.
I don't know. I don't know if Muse is yet. I could be wrong. But I don't know if he
one of the goons in the Punisher gear.
I want to pull up the actor's name because there is somebody who is.
Do we have a name for the character yet, or the actor?
Yeah, and I've seen it in like videos and everything, but I just forget who it is. But it's like the guy who's kind of like the ringleader of the corrupt cops.
Yeah.
Which I also find it fascinating that they cast a. Let me see. This is wonderful podcasting. I know. I appreciate everybody's patience here. Let's see. Can't find it, but I do find it fascinating that one, like the ringleader of the corrupt cops that's wearing the Punisher logo and everything, he's black.
Ooh, interesting.
I find that very fascinating of like what that could be. I am also like very fascinated by the fact that I'm looking at IMDb right now, and Wilson Bethel is cast for 15 episodes of Daredevil Born Again.
Ooh.
So that means we could still see him show up at some point throughout this if it's 15 episodes he's cast for. I am blown away in the best way possible by this show so far. Also, next week's episode is directed by Jeffrey Nachmanoff. I don't know if this does anything for you, Harrison. He co-wrote the screenplay for the 2004 blockbuster film The Day After Tomorrow.
Okay. So this should be good.
He's directing episode 4 and 5, and he's also been a director for Lovecraft Country. He was a writer for Chicago PD. He was a director, producer, and writer for the show Hostages. He directed the pilot and something called Endgame. He was a director for an episode for the pilot of Chicago Fire. He was a director for Homeland and Detroit 187. So he's got a lot of like the crime type of stuff up his sleeve. And then David Feige and Jesse Wigito are writing the episode. David Feige is the guy that we talked about when we previewed everything, that is like the big lawyer legal commentary guy. So we could see that unfolding potentially of like Matt getting disbarred potentially.
Yeah.
Which would be fascinating. This is one of 2 episodes that Jesse Wigito is also writing for the series as well. I'm blown away by how good this show has been. Like, my expectations were high simply because Daredevil is one of my favorite shows of all time, and it's blowing my expectations out of the water.
Yeah. Like, as you said, already had high expectations for this show. I did not expect my expectations to be blown away like this. And it's perfect. It's perfect. Down to the last minute detail. Perfect.
So that brings us to our ratings. Before we get into our ratings, it is brought to you by our awesome merch partners at PHI Apparel Company. Guys, you want to rock streamer season? The way to do it is with PHI Apparel Company. They've got the exclusive streamer season shirt and hoodie available to you, plus all Underground Sports Philadelphia podcast merch, as well as Philly sports merch to rep your favorite team and stand out in the crowd. I wear my streamer season hoodie anytime I go to the movie theater. It's so comfortable. It's one of the coolest logos we've put out on merch. Go to phiapparel.co, and when you go to checkout, use code Underground, and you'll get 10% off your next merch order from our friends at PHI Apparel Company. Again, code Underground, 10% off your next merch order at phiapparel.co. All right, Harrison, for context, you gave episode 1 a 9.8 and episode 2 a 9.7. Now, everybody out there, full disclosure, we are allowed to change ratings up until we firmly cement them in the books. So, Harrison, episode 3 of Daredevil Born Again, how does it stack up to the first 2 episodes for you?
It's right up there with them. It's another 9.7. Easy. I don't even have to think about it. This show has just been producing banger after banger after banger. And again, I am very biased, but this is exactly what I wanted and what I needed. I'm not looking at this from a critical standpoint. I'm looking at this from the standpoint of a fan. And as a fan, 9.7.
And for context, I gave both episode 1 and 2 a 9.5. This episode is better. It's a 9.7 from me as well. And I'm hypercritical of this show because not only am I watching this show right now, I'm also doing my first run through of Jessica Jones season 1 alongside it and seeing just the parallels of like Netflix era versus this in terms of shows. It's unbelievable how they've even stepped it up a notch in some degree for Daredevil Born Again. It's a 9.7 on the courtroom aspect, on the just connections aspect, the real life aspects, and the real human connections, and just the true you get caught lacking, you're going to be in for a big surprise in the show. And they are doing a phenomenal job. I am so happy so far with the first 3 episodes of this show.
Over the moon. This is exactly what I wanted it to be, and then some.
It's 3 episodes so far, but it is already reaching the echelons of the WandaVisions and the Lokis and the Moon Knight for me as an S tier show. And it's blowing other shows completely out of the water. And I was afraid when I saw the comparison too that people were saying like this was on like the Penguin level. And so far so good.
Yeah. So far so good. And that's putting it very mildly. Like even so far so great would be putting it mildly in my opinion. This show is phenomenal. It's fantastic.
Love it. I love it. I can't believe we only have 1 episode next week, but I can't wait for the double episode in 2 weeks because I'm going to be fucking licking my chops in excitement, baby. What's that?
Hounding at the bit. Just like, give me more.
Like, I'm pounding at my chest. Like, let's go.
Yes, sir.
So I am going to cut to myself and Christian in the future. We're going to break down some more of just the television aspect, get Christian's thoughts on this episode as well. And then we'll get into the rest of the episode. So sit tight. We'll be right back. And we're back for another portion of our Daredevil Born Again episode 3 segment. And Christian's here to round out the rest of the episode. If you listen to the first part with myself and Harrison, we went into the nerdy deep dive Daredevil Stan version of the breakdown. Christian, Someone who
Normie
has not
time.
watched the original Daredevil series and doing it purposefully, quite frankly. And I love that we have this aspect here. We're going to dive into your thoughts on the episode and how it portrayed itself. Spoiler warning for you, Harrison and I both really love the episode. But we'll start with your just overall thoughts on episode 3, how it compared for you to episodes 1 and 2, things you liked, things you didn't like, and then we'll talk about some of the hashtag cinema of this episode.
I kind of view it similar to episode 2, where it's like we're advancing things along here, but I'm waiting for the next like real shoe to drop because we have certain tattooed men going around and a very certain angry, yelling man who's bound to show up to comment on said people with tattoos. So I kind of personally am like, this is in a little bit of a holding pattern until the next shoe drops, because it's like the best way I can analogize this is, and I'm stuck using cars here because that's all my because that's all my brain can think of at 10 p.m. This show quickly went into first gear. And let's just say this is a car with three or 4 years. And it's gotten like 2/3 of the way to 2. But it just needs that little extra kick for me to set it off. And now through 3 episodes, that's not necessarily something that's needed through 3 episodes. But what I will continue to say is this is one of the most competently made Disney shows. One of the most competently made Marvel shows.
If not the most.
No, Andor. It's
No, I mean Marvel.
Oh, so yeah, sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Brains just like we have the dates for Andor, we have dates for Poker Face. We'll talk about all that later. But yeah. I'm still very much in on this. I need us to see the next episode so I can like say like, is this stalling out for me halfway through or whatever?
Yeah, I think next week, and Harrison and I talked about it a little bit, next week's going to be a big episode in a lot of ways. But I think one thing that you don't have the background on why I appreciated this episode was because it was classic Netflix Daredevil, like courtroom drama that worked so much more competently than anything we saw in She-Hulk. And granted, She-Hulk's a completely different character, obviously. She was Deadpool breaking the fourth wall type stuff. She's supposed to be that comedic factor. But this was like you could kind of see the mental struggles that Matt Murdock was having of not being Daredevil any longer and trying to convince somebody else to kind of like hang up their vigilante persona. And another big thing that we kind of talked about last week too, I love that they were able to wrap up this court case in one episode and they didn't drag it out throughout the season, because I think that could have really stalled a lot of what potential this show has moving forward that it's already built good graces for. So I like that they wrapped up this court case in the one episode that it was kind of the focal point of. And I think we're in for some absolute chaotic craziness next episode from all the build up that we got towards the end of this episode. Because we all know that was not Frank Castle, John Bernthal's Punisher that pulled the trig at the end of that episode, but we also have not seen Frank Castle since the end of the Punisher series that was on Netflix. So there's a lot of questions surrounding him, where he is, and I brought this up to Harrison. I wanted to get your take on it. I said, does the death of Hector Ayala force Matt to put the suit back on? And then in part, does that have him, once he finds out that, oh, it's this anti-vigilante task force going around in gear to make them look like Frank Castle, to look like the Punisher. Does that have Matt go on the chase to go and find Frank Castle? To which we get that scene that we saw in the original trailer where it looks like Frank Castle's kind of been like a living hermit in New York City. He's disheveled. He's got a hatchet in hand. I think there's some potential domino effects that we get, and I think we don't really see Bernthal until the end of next week's episode.
Yeah, so I was going to make a point on something. You what did you? Yes, pardon again. Like you were talking for a hot minute there. I was trying to remember back to what you said at the start. Yes, it is very nice that this case, for the most part, neatly wrapped up in one episode and was relatively self-contained. Because yes, there is a very real chance that this could have just been 3 episodes of the show. And you also made the comment about how this is like the core Daredevil courtroom stuff, and how I may not be as much I may not be giving it too much for that. It is good courtroom stuff. I don't feel the need to comment on good courtroom stuff because it doesn't feel truly exceptional to me. So I don't feel the need to be like, oh my god, this is like a great courtroom. Like, again, this is extremely competently well made. So I don't necessarily feel the need to be talking up, oh, like this is X, Y, and Z, yada yada yada. In terms of the way you think this is going, I definitely feel like Matt's gonna search out Frank. Like that's it. It only makes sense because if Frank's gone off the grid, he has no clue this is going on, and I'll even say that he would know if this is going on, and when he shows up, we are going to be in for a fun time, friends. We are going to be in for a treat because when we let that man cook.
No, wait.
See, I think the better question, though, however, based off of that, is: are we saying that this task force is coming from Fisk himself? Is it coming from the wife? Who is the task force coming from? Because I think that ultimately solves the end of this season for us. Because if you want to think it through, if this task force has any ties to Fisk, then inherently Fisk is compromised. It is compromised in the event Frank and Matt figure that out. And when Frank and Matt figure that out, once again, assuming it's Fisk involved, that then gives us the head-to-head conflict reason for those two to go head-to-head, and for the most likely assumption of, once again, Fisk having a public fallout in his way out of the mayor's office.
So it is confirmed too with the anti-vigilante task force. There's like a leader of it, and the actor portraying the character Cole North is Jeremy Earl, who's known for being in shows like NCIS Hawaii, Chicago PD. He's been in Empire, and a whole bunch of those type of shows. And next week's show is written by somebody who has a legal background as well. So I think we're going to get the introduction of him, because I think he's the one that inevitably killed Hector at the end of the episode. But like you said, is it of their own fruition that they're doing this, or is it called upon by Fisk? Is it called upon by Vanessa? Or is it just some sort of outside party type of thing? I also think it's interesting that in this episode we see a real close up of Fisk's hand, and that thing is kind of messed up.
is bloody.
It's like, who is he punching? Hopefully it's a desk. That's best case scenario.
I have a dream.
But
We have hope.
you never know with Wilson Fisk. I also brought this up to Harrison too. Outside, another potential thing that makes Matt put the suit back on, other than Hector's death, I don't know if it would take away too much from the character of Daredevil if they did this. So I also kind of split this. I said, could we potentially see, because of the antics that Matt pulled, and we have the district attorney saying, like, the court's not going to forget this, could Matt get suspended from practicing law, or could he potentially get disbarred? And that leads to him putting the suit back on because he has no other place to go.
I think the first of those two is more likely.
I agree.
But I will also say, the way I think it through is kind of like, if this is one of those moments where it's like, I kind of want to break out like Microsoft Paint and be like, okay, so if we assume that this is the end point and that this is the starting point, this is how we get there. We assume by the end of the season, Fisk is out as mayor, Matt is fully back as Daredevil, Punisher is back in the picture in some way, shape, or form, and ...
I'll also add to that Wilson Bethel, aka Bullseye, we were on IMDb yesterday. He is apparently cast for 15 episodes between this season and next.
Okay, so let's quickly do the math. We're through 3. He's only shown up in 1.
Correct. There's
And
18 total confirmed so far, but there's plans for season 3 and 4, from what I've heard.
I say,
But the confirmed ones on IMDb are for seasons 1 and 2. But like you said, he's been in 1. There's been 2 others. That knocks us down to a nice little 15. So we could see Wilson Bethel throughout the remainder of this show as a side story as well. And he potentially gets recruited by this anti-vigilante task force, or, maybe he's the one that Fisk is, beaten up on or something. There's lots of potential there. But with 15 episodes remaining between the rest of this season and all of season 2, we could be seeing a whole lot more of Bullseye moving forward.
yeah, I mean, we're through what, a third of the season now. Let's quickly game this out from where things stand. We are sitting here. Matt, assumably in the next episode, will have a crisis of faith after the events of this. That is a given. We know that they're these fake Punisher. I don't even want to call them fanboys because I feel like
they are considered the anti-vigilante task force.
Yes, but it's also like, I don't fundamentally like, it's a question of how much fun are they trying to poke fun at a certain subsection of our culture, in that are these idiot cops who are actually unironically doing the Punisher tat, or how are...
I think it's a combo of both. I did see a very funny tweet that I brought up to Harrison that said Daredevil Born Again is going to have these crooked cops in real life pulling Punisher stickers off their 2015 Dodge Chargers.
Ah, dear.
But
okay, so let's keep gaming this out for a second. So we know how this is going to end. We likely know how... we kind of know in our heads, based on things, what the Punisher thing will probably end up being. Assuming we get there within the next episode or 2, do we think, as we've kind of talked about already, that White Tiger alone is enough to get Matt to do it, I don't think so. There has to be, in my opinion, at least one more other interaction.
I know what it is. It's
Do
gonna
speak.
be because on top of the White Tiger storyline, Bullseye storyline, Kingpin, we still haven't gotten all that much of Muse just yet. We've gotten subtle hints and subtle, occurrences of the character. For anybody that doesn't know who Muse is, we brought it up last week. He is Banksy-inspired villain who uses the blood and bones and remains of his victims to paint murals and everything around Hell's Kitchen in New York. We know Muse is going to Heather for therapy. I don't think Heather's going to be around that much longer, and I think that's going to push Matt full send over the edge.
So I did want to bring this up because I feel like Matt is going to have to figure out that what's her name? What's the psychologist's name again? I'm sorry.
Heather.
That he's going to have to learn at some point in these next 2 episodes that she was working with Fisk.
Yes.
The question then becomes, is that in the event of her death? Is that in the event of him going to see her and Fisk walking out of the office and they have a moment? And that's another shit that's going to have to drop. And that will be interesting to see how that plays out. But I'm still, to me, I think the ultimate linchpin to this is who is behind this task force, because I've got the sneaking suspicion that, just based on kind of how this episode started, that is the wife trying to sabotage? Is the wife trying to sabotage?
So. I think Vanessa has a part in trying to just get him out of office and come back full send to the life of crime. I also have this theory that Fisk's little British right-hand man, when he says, "I don't work for the mayor, I work for the man," his character in the comics is a CIA agent. Last time we saw,
we the Julie Louis-Dreyfus, right?
Last time we saw her, she was the director of the CIA. So I think he could potentially also be working for her while also working for Fisk. And just the way that final sequence of this week's episode kind of parallel each other, where you have Hector putting the suit back on with kind of just a voiceover from Fisk talking about the vigilantes. I think Fisk is in the mix and kind of either in cahoots with Vanessa, or he's doing it upon his own fruition and has a tap in with this certain sector of cops all around New York to kind of do his bidding.
See, here's ultimately what I struggle with, though. What does Vanessa have to gain? Like, that's the ultimate thing I'm trying to figure out, because if and you can correct me on this, Daredevil doesn't have a history with the Thunderbolts? ?
I don't believe so.
So it's not like she will eventually loop Matt in. And also, all due respect to Marvel, I don't think they can do like I get the idea of like grounded to grounded in terms of bleeding Daredevil into Thunderbolts, but I don't quite see how the two properties can theoretically connect.
So I think my big like swing theory here, that I've been on this high horse for a while, is I don't think Sharon Carter's the power broker from the end of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I think it's one of Kingpin or Vanessa is the true power broker, and more leaning right now after this episode towards Vanessa, because when they're at that breakfast table, she's talking about she's been money laundering with artwork.
So I did think of bringing her up because as soon as you brought up what is Julia Louis Dreyfus like four-word name?
She goes by Val, but it's like Valentina Contessa something or other.
Yeah. It's been what at this point 4 years since we've seen Carter.
Yeah, it was the end of the Falcon Winter Soldier.
Marvel, what the fuck? I'm not gonna go on an MCU rant. I'm not gonna go on an MCU rant. I'm not gonna go on an MCU rant. Harry Styles, Brett Goldstein, yada 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 yada. Anyway,
Shang-Chi Legend of Ten Rings post-credit scene.
No comment. I mean, it would make sense. At the same time, it would just feel weird about not after 4 years of bumfuck all, just dropping her back in. So I do like your Vanessa theory, but also my problem with that is, were they even talking about doing a Daredevil show back in?
No, because the original plan when that happened was supposed to tie in with the whatever the fuck it's going to be War Machine show movie,
which is now a movie, Armor Wars, which doesn't have a date, by the way.
Correct. So I think that could be a way to like retcon that in a sense, but I just never believed that Sharon Carter goes from trying to protect Steve Rogers to she's got this secret hideaway in Madripoor filled with precious, artwork and, artifacts and antiques and everything, and she's calling the shots of the criminal underworld. It just never made sense to me. Vanessa, that makes total sense to me because, spoiler no context, at the end of Daredevil season 3, she's like, I want in on this criminal empire to Kingpin. And then we cut back years later now in episode 1 or 2. I forget which one she got fully introduced in, but she's at the table with the 5 families and she's running the whole fucking show. And now she's laundering artwork, which I think could also tie into the Muse story. I think there's more with Vanessa that we'll get from this show. And I think like we're just scratching the surface so far through 3 episodes. And I think they've done such a great job with all of it. And I also like that they teased without verbalizing, oh, here's the successor to the White Tiger mantle.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to see where this goes in the sense of, as in some past Marvel shows, we've had the idea of where the start and end point is going to be, but I would say, given how grounded this show is in more of a realistic sense, the relationships and the actions just feel like they have more stakes, which makes me ultimately care and be more interested in how we get from X, Y to Z, instead of, we're going down the witch's trail and she's grappling with X, Y, and Z, and it just didn't make me care, because we kind of know it's like, okay, it's ultimately a clash between these two, but we know he's surviving it going on because there's no reason for this. Whereas it's like, we know he's going to be Daredevil again. We know, just based on how things are supposed to go. Fisk will be out of office. We know they're going to get Bernthal in a more prominent role. How we're getting there with all these extra little notes thrown in there is what makes the show ultimately more compelling than most of the Marvel stuff.
I'll add this too because I think it could be a fun wrinkle. Now, I'm also congruently watching the Netflix properties that I never got around to initially. I've only watched seasons 1, 2, and 3 of Daredevil from Netflix. I never watched Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, The Defenders, Iron Fist, which everyone says you can kind of skip, and The Punisher. So I don't know kind of the end game of those shows, no pun intended. But since we haven't seen Bernthal's Punisher since the end of the Punisher show, I raise you this question, Christian. He kind of looks like he's been hiding out and a hermit and not really like in tune with what's going on with society. Could Bernthal's Punisher have been blipped and he's kind of just scarred from disappearing for 5 years, and that's why he's kind of gone off the grid?
That's an interesting thought, considering how we never really hear any mention of Punisher throughout Echo or Hawkeye. And I think Bernthal as an actor can do that quite well. John Bernthal, as we'll touch on in another segment, legitimate actor, baby. And for those of you who watch The Bear, legitimate actor. But that feels like it would make sense. It also would kind of, in a way, help legitimize the pseudo-lionization of the Punisher imagery, in a way, because without him there to actively counteract,
He became like a martyr almost.
Or it's just kind of like the Punisher is gone, we must stand in as the Punisher.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas it's like the Punisher was maybe only gone for X amount of time, like physically gone for X amount of time, but mentally he's been gone for X.
Right.
And this will get him back into it. I really like your theory there. I really like that.
So that could be something to definitely pay attention to. And I also think I brought this up last week. My theory of Vanessa's affair with Adam is 1000% Tony Dalton's character from Hawkeye. It only makes sense that Mr. Swordsman, fencing boy, is Vanessa's affair because, one, he had a thing for previously married women or married women. Number two, that motherfucker was Rico Suave to a T. And three, Kate Bishop's mom is out of the picture now. So time to move on to the next best thing. And we know that Tony Dalton's character had a connection to Kingpin in that show. I think that's who Vanessa was sleeping around with. And could potentially be the guy that Kingpin's bloodying his knuckles on.
Oh, I was gonna say this. Seeing the bloody knuckles. Did you ever watch any House of Cards?
I did not.
So the Kevin Spacey character had a whole thing about knocking on the table. And he commonly wore a ring, which funny enough, if you I forget if it's the end of the second or the third season, the knock he does on the table to end the season is basically a repitched version. Netflix basically repitched it and made it like the Netflix opening sound.
Oh yeah, I did see something about that.
So seeing those knuckles on the table made me think of that.
I did see something about that. That's a good call. Good call. What did you think of the? Oh no, go ahead.
Which I was gonna say, politicians, power, Anyway,
what did you think of the ending sequence? That final scene.
I think it did the job it was trying to do pretty well. I mean, I was kind of bored with the episode by the end of it. If I'm being honest, like it was a good episode, but it's kind of stuck in a spot for me where it's like we've kind of dropped the next domino, but we've kind of not, because we've sat through 3 episodes of seeing these people with Punisher tats, and it's like, okay, but give me something more here, like give hint at a broader thing going on, even though it's already implied, but like give me a more sense of this being a coherent organization. Give me a shadowy meeting in the dark. Give me a hooded figure walking through Central Park that may or may not be Frank, as a man wandering his way through the city who's mentally lost after coming back from the blip. Like, this is what I'm kind of like. I just need the extra little carrot, and it's just not giving the carrot.
I think we get the carrot next week, because looking at the schedule of episode releases, next week is also a 1-episode release. Then the following week is 2 episodes. And then the last 3 episodes do not have release dates yet.
That's not concerning at all.
They're all TBA.
Coming 2 months from now, the closing of Daredevil.
You're like, God damn it. Also, I brought this up to Harrison. Robbie Fox from Barstool was in New York and stumbled upon the set of Daredevil Born Again Season 2. And there were people all in SWAT jackets and SWAT vests that on the back of them read Anti-Vigilante Task Force. So they are filming Season 2 already, which is a great sign, obviously. But I do think next week's going to be very like Punisher heavy, and I think we get the domino that kicks off everything with Muse that kind of goes side by side with the Punisher coming back, because we know we're going to get an epic team up between Daredevil and Punisher. We've seen kind of set photos of that, which is going to be incredible. But I mean, there's the cool part about this is there's still so much we haven't even seen from the trailers yet. Like, we haven't seen all of Matt's masks that were wherever the hell that was, obviously. We haven't seen Kamala Khan's dad, who was, beat up in his apartment. We haven't seen Frank. We haven't seen Muse in the costume. There's a lot still left on the table. And before we move to the next thing, Christian, I did want to get your thoughts on the potential comic book theory leaking over to this show that they could be combining both storylines of it, of Foggy Nelson faking his death.
As someone who doesn't know enough comic lore, I have no comment.
So the theory that was trickled online was there's 2 storylines in the comics where Foggy fakes his death. And part of it is just the way that Sharon is in that final scene in the courtroom, in the courtroom when they're doing the testimony and everything, and she kind of is like holding back on saying something, in the way that when Foggy's name comes up, she like looks away from Matt and everything. On top of that, the address for Nelson, Murdoch, and Page in episode 1 is 468, which is the comic book number for the fake death of Foggy Nelson.
Marvel.
And it's like, oh, Karen moved to San Francisco all of a sudden. I wonder why. I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't hate it. It would be very fun.
You aren't going to hear you aren't going to hear anything from me about it. So,
so where through 3 episodes, where are you're still on you're all in on the show?
I'm looking forward to seeing where it is going.
So there it is, everybody. 3 episodes. They still got them. We're going to shift to our next topic, and that is the Odyssey casting leaks.
Boom, boom, boom.
Christian, you sent me this text today, and it is a regular segment on this show now to just be talking about this movie, and it will be for the next year. So discussing film tweeted, the source being oneman.gr/entertainment. Greek media has reportedly discovered some of the roles of the actors in Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, which is very fascinating, and I'm not mad about, quite frankly, any of these.
No.
Matt Damon as Odysseus, obviously.
You already knew it.
Tom Holland as. Oh no,
Yep.
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say pause after Tom.
Okay. Tom Holland as Telemachus, I believe, is how
I
it's
don't know.
pronounced.
And here's where when you pause for a second, because we were kind of saying it from the start, but we nailed the Anne Hathaway one.
Yes, we did, brother. Yes, we did.
Anne Hathaway as Penelope.
Yes, and for everyone out there, Telemachus is Odysseus.
I believe it's wherever, yeah.
Anne Hathaway is Penelope. Yes, go birds, go birds. Zendaya is Athena. That's perfect. Easy casting there. Charlize Theron is Cersei. I like me likey. I like that a lot. I think that's going to be very fun. The one that kind of surprised me, but I'm not mad, is Benny Safdie.
I'm sad because I sent my friend that Chaperone joke that I sent you.
Yeah.
And he was like, "What?" And I'm like, "Oh no." So Kyle, do you want to read that tweet that I had sent you? So, for those of you who don't know, this is from I forget how, a week or two ago, maybe
March 4th.
March 4th. This was during the kind of like, we're still kind of getting we're getting set clips of the Odyssey stuff, and someone tweets this out.
Chaperone, if she was fighting in the Trojan War, we need Agamemnon.
Truly great shit posting. Truly great shit posting.
So Benny Safdie is Agamemnon. I didn't expect that, but I like it.
I mean, so what? The notable guys left untapped right now are Bernthal,
Robert Pattinson, Corey Hawkins, Himesh Patel, Shiloh Fernandez.
No, just tell him, just cut it there. Oh well, and then for I can never spell Odyssey right. Okay. Okay. I mean, which one of these? Oh well, and Elliot Page, but which one of these three is playing Poseidon? Pattinson, Bernthal, Leguizamo. One of those three is playing Poseidon.
It's got to be Pattinson.
We're sure.
I would place the bet on Pattinson for Poseidon.
Okay. So then, who is Bernthal and who is Leguizamo? Is because Bernthal feels like he could be both on a boat and also be a god.
Right.
And Leguizamo feels like he would be some type of god, more so being a little more mischievous.
Let's see.
Corey Hawkins feels like he could be both. And of course, my beloved Cosmo Jarvis, as much as I want him to be a god, he definitely feels like he's on a boat. He 100% feels like he's on a boat. And he just spent an entire season of Shogun being a sailor, so the joke makes itself.
And somebody's got to be Achilles.
Elliot Page?
I could see that. I could see that. I could also see Pattinson potentially being Achilles.
Oh, wait, hold on.
Depending on how they want to.
I just think I may have unlocked something in my head. Bill Irwin is in this movie. Bill Irwin is the guy who played Tars in Interstellar. What odds do we put on him voicing the Cyclops? Anyone?
Is Tom Hardy in this movie too?
No.
Okay.
Tom Hardy version 2, Cosmo Jarvis is.
Okay.
Because Cosmo Jarvis, if you look at him, is basically like Tom Hardy version 2, and he does the funny voices, and he's British, and ooh, here's what are we doing with Mia Goth?
Let's see.
Because question one is, are they going to let her use her actual voice? Because have you heard her actual voice?
I don't know if I have.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna pull up a clip of her in her actual voice talking, because it's so like.
We do need a Helen of Troy.
And I moved to Brazil when I was very young, when I was 2 weeks old, and I lived with my grandma for a while, and she's an actress in Brazil. She would take me to her sets, and I saw firsthand how the highs are really high, but then also the lows can be really, really low.
Who is she playing?
Why does she sound like a one-off character in Rugrats?
I don't know. But my first question is: are they letting her use her actual voice? And if so, what does that fit? Kyle, any help?
Maybe she's Helen.
Does she have to yell charge?
No. She's Calypso.
Are we sure that isn't Lupita?
Lupita was on that list too that Discussing Film tweeted. She is Clytemnestra, who is Agamemnon's wife.
That feels like an underutilization of her, but okay. So
she's the half sister of Helen of Sparta.
I mean, it's probably Mia Goth then, yeah.
Mia Goth with that voice could definitely be like the nymph that Odysseus falls for.
Is it bad that thinking of it now, her voice is making me think of Moaning Myrtle?
That's exactly what she is. Yes. That's exactly what it is. Yep. 1000%.
Oh dear.
La persona perfecta.
I mean, do we have a Zeus?
So again, this is my whole thing with it's like Bernthal, like Wazamo, Patterson. One of them is playing Zeus, right? Because would you say Zeus is a notable part of the Odyssey?
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those three, and one of them is playing Poseidon, because Poseidon's also a notable part, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of them is playing each of those.
Sneakily, I don't know if it would be. I could also see Corey Hawkins in the Zeus role.
I don't. While I like that in principle, I don't think Nolan.
I agree with that. There's also a character, Antinous, who Screen Rant is projecting to be Robert Pattinson, who is like the most arrogant of Penelope suitors.
No.
And he leads the campaign to have Tom Holland's character killed.
See, I would say respectfully, I feel like those people are going to be closer to being, except for one of them, be closer to being nobodies on the call sheet. And I could also see Corey Hawkins being in there because Corey Hawkins has the charm.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It's this cast, and this is becoming a trend in the Christopher Nolan verse. Is you're staring at a list of names and you're going, well, these people can fit in like 6 different things. Like, I'm gonna pull it back up again, but like, what are we doing with Elliot Page? I don't know. Do you know? Like,
Not really.
it's not really. Keeps getting buried on my feed. Just show me the Nolan one. Damn it. But it is gonna be one of the biggest 3 movies of that year.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason I'm not saying more is because we're getting a Spielberg Alien movie, we're getting a Jordan Peele movie, and we're getting the 3rd Dune movie. So I don't know who. I don't know exactly, but it's going to be one of the biggest, and that's excluding any Disney thing.
Right.
Because
isn't 2026? Isn't that Doomsday as well?
Yeah, but also I'm someone who's at the point with Marvel where I'm like, even if they hype up Doomsday, what's the state of the MCU gonna be in at that point? Where if Fantastic Four doesn't fully land, which I have minor concerns about, we're really stumbling into a state where what is the MCU and at this point post Endgame, and is DC just gonna fully take its lunch money and run up the hill?
What is the MCU post Endgame? Well, Christian, it's Daredevil.
It's a mess.
It's the streets of Hell's Kitchen, and that's about it. But yeah, anything else on the Odyssey?
Let me quickly throw a fun little thing in here where pull up the crew to see. Oh, did you? So it's not casting, but did you see the night shoot stuff that was going on in Morocco?
Yes.
Very interesting.
Very, very fun.
Very, very fun. But this movie is being shot by Hoyt van Hoytema, which he's shot every Nolan movie since, if I'm getting my timeline right here, Interstellar? Yeah, because Interstellar was before Dunkirk. He shot those, he shot Spectre, he shot Her, and he shot Nope. Which, Nope, great looking movie.
Mhm.
So I am excited for him to be shooting that. You can basically lock this in for 10 plus nominations already. I don't care. And the score is being done by who I will continually say, even though he really isn't underrated, that I will say he is, Ludwig Göransson, who I'm still mad that he didn't get recognized for his great Tenet score. But anyway, that's enough of us babbling about the Odyssey.
That's our weekly Odyssey check-in, and this week it's brought to you by our Underground Madness tournament coverage. That's right, guys. Underground Madness is back. That is our yearly NCAA college basketball tournament coverage. We've got our bracket challenge. We're going to have a winner of our bracket challenge. We've got interviews lined up. We've got segments on our main podcast. But here's the twist. In 2025, we're not doing it alone. Our friends at FOCO said, hey, we want to get on board with you guys and start a partnership for March Madness with you. So that's exactly what we're doing. FOCO is on board with us for all of March Madness 2025. They are sponsoring everything throughout the tournament season for us. So any interviews, clips, live streams, including our Selection Sunday live stream coming up on Sunday, March 16th, they're behind it. We love FOCO. And here's the thing, starting on March 16th through April 8th, you can use our link in the description, shop everything from FOCO that they have to offer. It's all officially licensed college gear, professional sports gear, collectibles, apparel, you name it. Use the link in the description. That way FOCO knows you're coming from us. And they're hooking us up with a promo code as well that starts on March 16th and runs through April 8th. Code Underground10. You'll get 10% off your entire order from our friends at FOCO. So use the link, code Underground10 at checkout when you shop with FOCO, and you'll get 10% off your next order. Use that link, use the code. It's going to really benefit us. FOCO is going to love seeing you guys shopping with it, and we're stoked. So join our bracket challenge as well. It's linked in the description of the episode. Compete against me, Christian, Harrison, and everybody here at Underground Sports Philadelphia in our bracket challenge. We're trying to make it bigger and better than ever this year. And it's all brought to you by FOCO. We thank FOCO for sponsoring Underground Madness 2025. Without any further ado, let's get to everybody's favorite segment. It is the Streaming Platform Multiverse news and notes brought to you by our friends over at Kenwood Beer, the official beer partner of Underground Sports Philadelphia. It's a refreshing light beer, just 4.1% ABV, 120 calories, just 8 grams of carbs. Go to kenwoodbeer.com, use the Kenny Finder to see who's got Kenwood Beer on tap in the Philadelphia, New Jersey, Delaware, Pittsburgh, and Maryland areas. You can also get Kenwood Beer at your local liquor stores in those markets. Once again, that's kenwoodbeer.com. Must be 21 or older to do so. And of course, please drink responsibly. Harrison, Jesus Christ.
Thanks, Kyle. Love you too. Love you too.
Christian, speaking of Avengers Doomsday, the Russo brothers have a plan to shut down leaks and set photos for Avengers Doomsday. Quote, the location work we are doing, we have picked those locations with leaks in mind.
Congratulations. Best of luck. I mean, you can try and do it. I mean, it won't save you from a Spider-Man situation where even without those leaks, you show us a trailer of Peter Parker jumping at 3 different villains, and you're like, something's missing in this shot, my friend.
I wanted to get your thoughts on Amazon paying nearly $1 billion for creative control for James Bond.
So, here's the fun thing about this. As soon as I first saw the news, I'm like, okay, so how big was the check? And here's something I didn't quite realize, which the character of James Bond enters the public domain in 10 years. the written character of James Bond. Now, the James Bond theme, the James Bond barrel, doesn't enter the public domain. James Bond, the character, enters the public domain in 10 years. So, Amazon has roughly paid $1 billion for 10 years of Bond, which will roughly be, 2.5 movies and maybe 2 shows?
Mm-hmm.
What was it actually worth it?
Sources are indicating not really, Bob. Not really.
Sounds like an ego check to me, bud.
So what you're saying is James Bond, the character, enters the public domain, so that means we're going to get some sort of horror movie with James Bond where he goes out and kills horror Winnie the Pooh, Barney, and all those cats.
No. What we actually get is James Bond versus Blofeld, who's basically Saw, who's basically Jigsaw.
I could see it. Someone's going to do it.
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die unless you get out of this trap. Bye, yada, yada, yada.
Next thing I have here, I absolutely fucking hate this. Comes from Variety. Paddington and Peru writers are reuniting for an AI animated feature film called Critters.
Never have I wanted a film to bomb so unbelievably hard. Never have I ever.
It's so bad.
So bad.
What is Daryl Morey writing this movie?
At least you didn't say Daryl Morey's daughter, who actually does have a film degree.
Well, did you see the quote today from Daryl Morey?
To be honest, I've wiped the Sixers out of my brain for like the last 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. I don't know.
He said they use AI to do decision making with the Philadelphia 76ers.
I can't tell if he's serious about that or not.
Oh, he sounded serious because he was at that Sloan Analytics conference.
Well, okay, so here's the question I have for him. And this is my whole thing. I'm fine with AI as an assistant as opposed to generative AI. I don't believe he's legitimately saying we use generative AI to make roster decisions. But
is it bad when I saw the tweet caption? I was like, oh, he's consulting with Allen Iverson.
Shall we talk about what's going to be a chaotic April and May?
Spring has sprung. We
have Andrew on what day again?
April 22nd, I believe, is the first 3 episodes.
Okay, so April 22nd. Then if I pull up the calendar, then 2 weeks later, I believe, is Poker Face.
And 8 days prior is The Last of Us Season 2.
And then there's one other. Oh, and also in there, even though you aren't watching it, like on the 10th, we get Hacks, the 4th season of Hacks.
And the final 3 episodes of Daredevil Born Again will be in the month of April.
We are so fucked.
Hey, if Ghost Energy would like to sponsor us for these gauntlets that we're about to be going on to energize our coverage, our DMs are open.
Yep. There's a Tiger Woods film in the works with Amazon MGM, being produced by the Obama's production company.
Getting into all the sports stuff.
And reportedly, the director is supposedly the director that's being circled as Ronaldo Marcus Green, who you may know from directing King Richard.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's.
I wonder if there's any similar people working on that worked on the Trey Turner documentary, because the Obama's production company did that too. Peaky Blinders is getting a theatrical release. The movie.
I will be seated. one of the young crop of redheads will be playing one of two redheads in a Spider-Man movie.
What do you mean? Sadie Sink wasn't cast as J. Jonah Jameson?
Okay, so we need a bald cap. We need a mustache.
And a hefty cigar.
Or no, hold on. We could change what the first J means in J. Jonah Jameson and probably get away with it.
Mary Jane Jonah Jameson?
Jean Grey Jonah Jameson? See, here's... For better or for worse, here's the thing with this. If we're entering a spot where we know Zendaya is going to be in this movie, surely we're not doing MJ and Mary Jane both simultaneously existing.
A lot of people are saying she's probably going to be Black Cat.
So here's while I don't hate that idea, this is one of the things I've seen thrown around, which seems ridiculous on the surface, but there's at least a little bit of like intrigue in this. And given how they have to layer things in the next 2 years at this point, heading into Secret Wars, they've thrown their idea of her as Jean Grey being introduced in this movie, which that part is the part that isn't quite sticking. But she was part of the Jean Grey rumor mill a few months back.
Yeah, I remember that.
And Margaret Qualley has been part of the Rogue rumor mill. Now, I like both of those things. It would also signify that we're doing a rather young group of X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
I do also, on the counterpoint, think it's somewhat notable that Rogue and Jean Grey are the only ones we've had even remote rumors about in terms of specific people, which I think is a sign of where this thing is, which by that I mean approximately fucking nowhere. in terms of any level of clarity at all.
I do like that she's being cast, though. I like Sadie Sink as an actor. So we'll see. I would like to see her as Jean Grey. And like you said, if they're going like the young X-Men route too, I think that's a smart idea for them.
Sadie Sink is the second best Stranger Things actor. Because spoiler, we're putting Joseph Quinn number one. Or
okay. I was gonna say Winona.
I'm not talking about the adults. I'm talking about the kids.
Okay, you didn't specify. I got to stand up for my birthday twin. Yeah, Joseph Quinn 1.
Maya 2. See, this is the because
either Maya or Lucas.
Lucas?
What's his actual name? I always forget. Caleb McLaughlin.
I don't think he's done enough in as dumb as this sounds. I would pick Joe Carey before I would pick him, simply because Joe Carey has had at least some things outside of Stranger Things that have at least had some traction. Like, your mileage may vary on Free Guy, but like, he's functionally one of the 3 or 4 stars in Free Guy.
I'll give Gayton credit because he's done like Broadway type performances.
Sure. And I'll give Finn credit for at least trying to do artsy stuff.
Mm-hmm. But Finn's more leaning towards getting into the behind the camera stuff now more than anything.
Yeah, which all the power to him. Yeah, all the power to him. And then at the bottom of the list, fuck you, Millie Bobby Brown. Anyway,
Speaking of,
No. Let's move on.
the Electric State debuts to 18% on Rotten Tomatoes based on 11 reviews from last week. 320. Christian, I don't even care.
Kyle,
What would you do if you were given a budget of $320 million?
if you're giving me $320 million, I'm going to all the indie filmmakers and all the other filmmakers I love, and funding like 10 movies, and probably not making all that money back, but putting 10 good movies out there. Which again, this is their. I suggest people go and listen to the podcast known as the Town, where it's hosted by Puck News' Matt Bellany, where he did a 2-part interview with Bella Bajaria, the kind of head of Netflix content and everything, saying she would do the Electric State all over again, where realistically, if you look at what were the biggest movies on Netflix last year, it was Carry On, it was Rebel Ridge, it was A Family Affair, it was these fucking mid-budget, like, let's just roughly say like $40 to $80 million movies that the studios don't make anymore. I get wanting to do a tentpole or two, but maybe make an actually good tentpole and stop giving us, like, for the lack of a nicer phrase, star fuckers, where it's like, how many names can we jam into this thing and to basically create a budget that looks like we're laundering money for a Mexican drug cartel? Like, what the fuck is going on? Like,
and the crazy part is, I saw on LinkedIn, of all places, they did an interview with like the head of creative at Netflix, and he said like they have no plans to like stop spending. Like they're just getting started.
oh no, they were planning to spend like $18 billion.
Yeah, it's insane.
To which
Where are you getting this from? Oh, that's right. Everyone's subscription's like $30 a month now.
They're $30 a month plus the ad, plus the ad money they're getting now, plus probably some shady Mexican cartel or Putin wiring money.
Cue the Narcos theme.
Cue the Law and Order SVU theme. We got a trailer for F1.
We did.
I am cautiously cautious.
I found it pretty interesting that the Apple TV account went live on Instagram to showcase it as well. I thought that was a pretty fun and unique way to also showcase. So cool marketing tactic there.
Speaking of Netflix, Charlie XCX in the Chronicles of Narnia, and they're aiming for Daniel Craig as well. Chronicles of Narnia is Brat.
It's Brat and Bond, also known as the Red Light District in Amsterdam.
I was gonna make a comment of like, that sounds like something you would get at like a German pub, or even like a British pub, like Brat and Bond. No, right, like a fucking Brat and Bond, which is like a sausage platter with like some type of like some type of beer infused thing. Pubs, take note.
I wanted to get your thoughts on the teaser for the Thunderbolts, incorporating all of the films that they listed off for, like, from the people from this. I don't know if you saw it or not.
The you're talking about the A24 trailer, essentially.
Yes.
I appreciate that they're committing to the bit, but I also feel like it's them conceding a little at the same time. Whereas they've been fighting the like we this the they've been fighting the allegations we've levied against them, and them committing to the A24 trailer joke is like, okay, so you have conceded that you are having to stoop to this to actually try and get people to be like, hey, look at that.
To which I believe the official A24 social accounts
Yeah,
responded.
they did.
I want to find what the response was. I forget what it was, but it was good.
I believe it was a Euphoria meme.
It was. Did they? Yeah, it was something. Oh yeah, wait. Is this fucking play about us?
Yeah.
Good.
As I said, a trailer in which I refuse to watch it based on principle. I don't care what people say. They dropped the Lilo and Stitch trailer. I refuse to watch it. I refuse to engage with this movie. Kyle, go ahead.
Yeah. You know how I feel about the live action Disney shit. James Cameron says Avatar Fire and Ash will be the longest film yet in the franchise. The last one was 3 hours and 12 minutes.
James, intermission? Question mark. I already talked about Hacks. I already talked about our Patson Zendaya. Last of Us trailer, folks.
Yes. I'm so ready for that show to just break me down week by week yet again.
I didn't see this week-old news until now, and now I'm sad. They're remaking the Thomas Crown Affair with Taylor Russell and Michael B. Jordan. The problem here is the first version was Steve McQueen and Faye Dunaway. The second version was peak Pierce Brosnan and Rene Russo. This doesn't feel like it matches that. And all due respect to Michael B. Jordan, you ain't fucking peak charming Pierce Brosnan.
I like this. This comes from the Hollywood Reporter. The budget for A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, the next Game of Thrones spin-off show, was less than $10 million per episode. Quote, the battle sequences that the directors achieved match those across Game of Thrones and are a fraction of the price. Take note, Russo brothers. Take note.
Zach Kreger of our favorite movie in the world, Barbarian, will be making a Resident Evil movie.
Good grief.
How fucked up is that going to be, Kyle?
I'm sad about this next news so much, and I don't know how I missed this. Details on George Lucas's canceled Star Wars Underworld show. 60 scripts were nearly complete. Episodes were, quote, dark, sexy, and more violent than anything that came prior. You'll love this. The cost was $40 million an episode. They wanted John Williams to score all the episodes. It was scrapped because it was too expensive. It would have blown up the whole Star Wars universe. Disney definitely wouldn't have offered to buy it after.
I mean, all due respect to George, but I don't blame Disney at the same time.
Yeah, that's a bummer though.
So I don't know if you've heard about this. Michael Bay showed a documentary at South by Southwest. Do you know what the documentary is about?
I don't.
Parkour.
Jesus.
There's a Michael Bay parkour documentary that is going to be out in the Aether later this year.
Good grief.
Tell me that's not going to look sick.
Parkour.
Brr.
Did you also see the Thunderbolts trailer on YouTube title?
Yeah,
Absolute cinema.
Kyle. Again, they've given up. They have conceded. Glenn Powell will be starring in Barry Jenkins' next film. Described as an elevated sci-fi thriller revolving around the pursuit of eternal life. To which I respond with, Glenn Powell, you are now one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. And you have impeccable taste, my friend. I would just like to go through Glenn Powell's filmography of what he has going on, because Glenn Powell is, and I mean this in the nicest way, is like the American, more mainstream version of Robert Pattinson. And I'll explain that in a second. But we have gone from him being in a Tom Cruise film to him being in Twisters, directed by Lee Isaac Chung, to him now being in an Edgar Wright film, and then him being in a John Patton Ford Western movie with Margaret Qualley, Ed Harris, and Jessica Henwick, and now him doing this. This man is on a heater. This man is also a heater. And the reason I bring up the Robert Pattinson combo is Glenn Powell is hot and has taste. Like, he is someone all of us can look at and go, that man is extremely good looking, and he also has good taste in projects, and he's cultured. Robert Pattinson is good looking, has great taste, is also a little bit of a freak. He's a little bit of a freak. Like this is a man who, since exiting Twilight, has worked with David Cronenberg, has worked with Claire Denis, has worked with the Safdie brothers, has worked with Ari Aster, has worked with Christopher Nolan, has worked with Matt Reeves, has worked with Miyazaki, has worked with Bong Joon-ho. He's working with Nolan again. He's working with Lynn Ramsey. He is just like fun, good-looking, extremely talented British man who also is a little bit of a freak, and I love it. I've shown you the like funny clip of him and Suki Waterhouse, right? This is a man who just truly wants to just be like, I enjoy acting. I enjoy doing these things. I'm a movie star, but leave me the fuck alone.
And on top of that, the fact that him, Charlie Cox, and Andrew Garfield were all best friends in college, and him and Charlie Cox, I believe, were roommates in college, is just incredible.
I mean that's up there with the Paul Mescal, Andrew Scott, and was it Joe Alwyn all having a group chat? It's like, what are these British people cooking real quick? Hold on a minute.
And like Andrew Garfield like wasn't even like living there, and he would just like show, he's like, yeah, I just like hanging out here. Speaking of Charlie Cox, Vincent D'Onofrio responds to a fan that says Daredevil Born Again ruined Kingpin. The sequence of events was Vincent D'Onofrio quote tweeting Rotten Tomatoes saying wonderful about the certified fresh tweet, and then somebody responded with the Twitter handle Masterpiece PD, but their display name is Dumbass. It sucked, actually, and your character is pathetic and thoroughly ruined. To which Vincent D'Onofrio responded, "Thanks for your support, dumbass." And everybody took that as him calling the person a dumbass when he literally said their display name is Dumbass. Everyone realizes that, correct?
Oh, dear.
Christian, are you ready for A Quiet Place 3 that's now in development?
I mean, it didn't we already technically have Quiet Place 3? Even well, I guess it wasn't technically Quiet Place 3. It was the third Quiet Place film, but it was a prequel film to the first Quiet Place film. So what? Is this still Emily Blunt?
I think so, yeah. Pedro Pascal was asked his thoughts on The Last of Us Season 2. Quote, "It's fucking heartbreaking. The showrunners are sick people." John Bernthal on his dark upcoming Punisher Disney Plus special. Quote, "I'm getting the opportunity to tell the story that I think the fans deserve. It's not going to be Punisher light. I promise you that." Hell yeah. This past week, happy 46th birthday to Oscar Isaac. The man, the myth, the legend. What else do I have here real quick? Mon Mothma actress Genevieve O'Reilly teases Andor Season 2. If Season 1 laid the track, then Season 2 is the juggernaut.
I'm the juggernaut.
I'm the juggernaut, bitch. Happy 54th birthday to John Hamm.
Congratulations on the Apple TV show, John.
Daredevil Born Again debuted with 7.5 million viewers in its first 5 days on Disney Plus. Pretty good.
I'm happy.
Jimmy Tatro has been cast in Scream 7.
I'm mentally checked out on Scream 7 at this point.
And this is interesting. Disney is not inviting media outlets to the live-action Snow White Hollywood premiere.
Okay, let's quickly unpack this. Is it A, because the movie is shit? Is it B, because Gal Gadot is both bad at acting, and also people will be asking her specific questions that she would rather not answer? Is it C, because people are annoyed at Rachel Zegler for no good reason, aside from her not being white and being outspoken? D, is it all of the above?
I'd like to solve the puzzle. I'm going to go with D, all of the above.
I'm going to guess you're correct.
The coverage is limited to photographers and Disney crew. Elizabeth Olsen says she would love to continue playing Scarlet Witch in the MCU, to which I say, yes, please. Yes, mommy, yes. I mean, what? Also, this was great. Ayo Edebiri says she received insane death threats and racial slurs after Elon Musk amplified a fake report claiming she was replacing Johnny Depp in a new Pirates of the Caribbean film. Quote, "Not only is he a fascist, he's an idiot." Fuck yeah, Ayo.
Can we get Flight Tracker back working on his plane? And anyone
out there?
Anyone?
Can we confirm?
Anonymous, can you help us with this?
And I think that's all I got.
I ran out of steam a while ago.
So there you have it, everybody. Make sure you're following us on the socials at StreamerSZN, StreamerSZN Pod on TikTok. Subscribe to the pod, Apple, Spotify. Leave us a 5-star review. Subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Underground Sports Philadelphia. leave a like on the video, drop a comment section, and click that bell icon so you know whenever new videos go live. And this has been another edition of StreamerSZN, the exclusive streaming platform TV and movie podcast on the Underground Sports Philadelphia Podcast Network. For Christian, for Harrison, I'm KB. We're going to go run through Hell's Kitchen, recast the Odyssey even more. But until then, we'll see you next time. Peace.
Cool.